girls tennis team, Coach Dave Clutts. Dave, good seeing you again.
Good seeing you, John.
We've got Jillian Brooks there on the end and Kaylee Yakum. Girls, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Well, as always, another great season it seems for the St. Clair girls. Why don't you take us through and tell us a little bit of what happened?
Well, this was a really, really hard season for us. Again, not having any tennis courts this year, couldn't even practice at our facility, so we had to practice up in Port Huron. The weather was horrible to start the year. I mean, it seemed like we practiced indoors on 2, maybe 3 courts for the first 3 quarters of the season. So that made it kind of tough. And again, playing every match on the road, we had a young team. We had 6 girls who had never played on a varsity team before. So with all those things against us this year, the girls came through and just played fantastic.
Well, I'd actually heard from a couple people that there were girls who really hadn't played very much tennis. How do you kind of integrate them into the team, and how do you change your coaching philosophy or style with brand new players like that?
Well, I mean, you have to adjust your expectations. It's just a matter of, I don't care whether you win or lose, I just want to see you get better and learn from your losses. And so we kind of adjust our expectations that way.
Okay. What are the strengths of the team this year?
I would say, first of all, their determination. I thought we had a group of girls that just didn't quit, and they got better as the season went along. And again, with the issues with practice, very flexible. I mean, they certainly could roll with the different changes, and that really helped.
Okay. And just tell me, I mean, you guys play in the red. Again, almost it's a coaching philosophy of yours to give the girls that kind of challenge. I was curious, you mentioned a number of younger girls or inexperienced girls. The red's tough. It's not the toughest conference in the state, one of the 2 or 3 toughest. How do you manage not losing their confidence going into such tough conditions? You know,
normally my philosophy of scheduling is I divide up our schedule into thirds, where we have a third of our schedule, we're probably going to get our butts kicked. A third of our schedule should be like 50, it should be a good match, 50-50, and then a third should be some confidence builders. And it was hard this year because we were at the whim of everybody else. We couldn't schedule any home matches and control the tournaments that we were in. So it was probably a little on the heavier side this year, more than normal, with a young team. But again, they sort of rose to the occasion.
So tell me a little bit about what you try to do to prepare the team. You mentioned thirds in terms of season scheduling. What about practicing and getting ready for the season and then during the season? You know,
I do practice probably different than a lot of other coaches, where they just do certain drills every day and do. What I try to do is work with Dan Johnson, my assistant coach, as we look at our need to work on. And so we try to spend maybe 20 minutes with each kid or each doubles team when we can get practice in.
yeah, exactly. So you mentioned, and maybe explaining again how high school tennis works with the singles and the doubles, and talk about how the different levels work with that, just so people understand how it's actually scored.
Well, tennis, you have 4 singles players and 4 doubles teams. And the rule is that your best player on the team has to play 1 singles. And then the rest of your lineup just has to be in rank order. Your number 2 singles player doesn't have to be your second best player on your team, but has to be better than your 3 singles, and then your 3 has to be better than your 4. And then your 1 doubles team has to be your strongest doubles team.
Okay. But, I mean, ideally, you could actually have a team of doubles players that's better, quote, than your second singles player.
Correct, correct. Yep, and we do. I mean, a lot of times we have some of our top players in doubles just to balance out the team.
Okay. So do you kind of set that lineup early on, or do you adjust the lineup through the season?
If it's possible. I mean, we had 6 brand new players this year, and so we started out with Kaylee thinking that she was going to play singles this year. And then we had an injury with another kid early on and totally changed what we did. But I think we actually ended up with the strongest team after we went through a couple lineup changes. So I'd like to set it early, but when you have a young team and you're not sure what you have, you play around with it a lot.
Do you have challenges during the
Oh,
year?
yeah, yes.
So the girls actually take on each other?
They do, but you want to do that early on.
Okay.
Because you get to a point in tennis where you have to play the majority of your matches at that position. And if you want to be considered for seeding at the regional or state tournament, you got to have them in their position pretty quick.
Do you ever have situations with girls where they maybe don't think they're as good as they are and they're not really?
Oh, yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, you try to build them up, and,
Yeah.
and that's, I've had kids. Tennis is such a mental sport.
Right.
It's like I'm a psychologist for 12 kids. And the reality is that you have to know what motivates them, what pushes them, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. But you have to try to figure out what will get them to rise to the occasion.
So you mentioned varsity. Now, do you have a JV team as
We do.
well? So how many girls do you actually have out for a team?
We had, this year, between varsity and JV, we had 47 girls.
Wow.
So we had, I keep 14 on varsity, so that gives us 30-some on the JV team. And we try to give equal playing time with the JV players, but it was very hard this year because we didn't have courts and
Right.
place to practice and so on.
So what are your expectations from your leadership, from a peer standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
from the leaders on your team for the younger players?
Well, the one thing is demonstrate work ethic
Yeah.
and the desire to get better. It's challenging the first time you play in a regional. I mean, it's when if you lose, you're done. And so the thing that the captains can do and the players that have been around a while is just to be able to explain to them, don't stress out, just the mental part of it.
Sure.
That's what we really look for them for.
So you mentioned regionals. Tell us a little bit about how it went in regionals, who you played, where you finished, and those sorts of things.
Well, we had a sort of a new regional. I mean, we've hosted it, but we had a couple new teams come in, and they put Pontiac Notre Dame Prep in our regional, which is always a pretty strong team. And this year we ended up tying for first with them. So it was tough. I mean, we only won 2 flights, but we got everybody through the first couple rounds.
And those create points.
Yes.
That's how you win things.
Correct.
So, and then you went to state. So we've talked about this a lot, but how do you prepare for that, and how do the girls really enter into that kind of state competition, which is extremely high level?
Well, and that's why we play the schedule we play. We want them to see the best in the regular season, so when we get to the state finals, it's nothing new.
Right.
And that's really the whole point of the regular season.
So what girls did well at who stepped up here in regionals, let's say?
Well, we had I think 5 of our flights that got through the first round, and that was very tough. I would say our one doubles team did very well. Jilly got through the first round, and then Drew was the number 2 seed. Yes. So it was tough, but we did get a number of our flights through, and we got 1 into the quarterfinals.
That's excellent. That's
And
again, that kind of competition is amazing.
Well, her sister Jamie played 3 singles for us, and when she got 2 singles, got to the semifinals,
Oh, that's
which was
excellent.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was our highest finish.
Oh, that's terrific. So one of the things that I was wondering about this is that it seemed like reading the articles, there were a lot of nationally ranked players playing in the high school tournament this year. Is that new, or is that something that's happened more often?
It's hard for me to say whether it's new or not. There's always highly ranked players that are playing. Some choose not to, but a lot still choose to play. There was a girl that played a few years ago for Williamston who was the #1 college recruit in the country.
Wow.
And she played 2 years of high school tennis, and 2 years she didn't.
Sure.
Her senior year, she won the state title without ever losing a single game the entire season or state tournament. So we've always had high-quality players playing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing that a state like Michigan has that kind of quality.
Yes.
And it really, and that's the other thing, speaking of the state of Michigan, but let's talk about St. Clair. Again, the spring sports this year have just been amazing. You had great success. It seems like every single sport. What can you attribute that to?
I think we obviously have great kids.
Yeah.
Expectations, our coaches expect our kids to do well, and they rise to the occasion.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, all right, girls, let's talk a little bit about you. And Jillian, let's start with you. A couple easy questions. How'd you start? Did your parents play, or how'd you get started playing tennis?
Well, my grandpa was the coach before Clutts was.
yes.
All right.
So my mom,
Ron?
Yes.
yeah, my
Okay.
mom had always played, so they got me into it when I was really little.
Okay, how about you, Kaylee?
Pretty much kind of the same things. People played in my family, so I was like 7 and I would go pick up all the balls, and I just ended up playing. So
kind of have to, right?
yeah.
So Jillian, you're the number one singles player.
Yeah.
What kind of describe yourself as a player? How do you approach the game?
Well, this year it was definitely something new because it was my first time playing one single, so I was kind of going in like on the defense on every match, trying to do the best I could, I guess, and not really having too high expectations for myself because I knew that all the girls I was playing were going to be really good, but I ended up doing pretty well, I'd say.
Good. So Kaylee, you were number one doubles, correct?
With Carrie.
With Carrie.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for that? I mean, what kind of expectations? How do you blend with your partner?
Well, me and Carrie played last year together,
Okay.
so we already like had that base, like we knew each other. So this season when Allie, her new partner, injured herself, it was kind of going back to like old times. So I think we expected that we'd do pretty good.
So do you guys trade off? I mean, are you primarily the net player, or do you? What are the strengths of your partnership?
I think me and Carrie like complement each other well because I'm kind of more consistent, but then Carrie has a really hard serve, so we like balance each other out. If I play at the net and she's at the back.
Okay.
So.
All right. And Jillian, what's your best shot? What do you depend on?
This season, it was probably my serve because everything else was kind of a mess.
Well, it couldn't have been too much of a mess if you did as well as you did.
Yeah, I would just say my serve is my best one this
What kind of
season.
serve do you hit? Are you trying to get to the net behind it, or serve aces?
Serve aces, for sure.
Okay. And what kind of player gives you the most challenge? Someone who stays back or someone who attacks a lot?
I think someone who is consistent gives me the most trouble because that is where I struggle, is staying in the point for a long time. So if someone can do that better than I can, then I have a lot of trouble with them.
I always wanted to ask the doubles player, so how do you interact on the court? Do you ever get mad at your partner, or do you ever say anything to her?
I mean, not really. I'm kind of known as like the one who just always smiles, so I really don't get upset. But I mean, if we're both down, we just try to pick each other back up. But
Okay.
we normally don't get mad at each other.
So, I mean, doubles partners is kind of a fun, interesting
Yeah.
relationship,
Mhm.
right? Almost like sisters in some ways.
Uh-huh.
And how do you communicate during the match?
Well, I mean, me and Carrie kind of know who's gonna go for what by now because we played
Sure.
for now like 2 years together. So, but normally we'll just say, you got it, here, like, you get it, kind of thing, but we don't do any hand signals or anything like that.
So, Jillian, you stepped up to number one. What would you say is your best improvement from last year to this year?
Definitely, after playing all the girls that were so much better, is like handling pace better. There are
Okay.
people that'll hit the ball a lot harder now in one singles because I'm playing every school's best player, so they are a lot better than a two singles.
So what are you looking forward to next year when you're a senior?
I'm trying to have a better season than I did this year. My goal is to have a winning record because I could not get one this year.
Do you have something specifically you're working on to try to get better?
Yeah, I'm trying to be able to stay in the point longer and work on my consistency in matches and like my mental game.
Okay. And what about you from your team? What do you want to do? Do you want to play singles next year or doubles? What are you thinking?
I really don't know because I've only actually played like one singles game before it got switched back, so I really don't know if I'd end up liking singles because it's a completely different game.
Sure.
But I really like doubles. I like the back and forth. It's faster.
Yes.
The consistency thing. I like points that get done faster, like over with.
Yeah. So what's from your perspective, what's your biggest improvement year to year from last year to this year?
I'd have to say just me and Carrie like working better together because last year we almost played like two separate people. We didn't like play together, and that's really like the key with doubles.
Mhm.
You have to play together because you can set each other up,
Yes.
hit a point. So I'd say that.
Okay. Do you ever do those signals behind your back?
No, we didn't get into that, but
Okay. So, Jillian, and I'll ask the same thing of you,
Mhm.
Kaylee, here in a second, but one of the things I always ask the athletes, and tennis being, as Coach said, in the singles, very much an individual sport, what do you think tennis has helped you in terms of being a student or a person as you've matured through your high school career?
That's a kind of a tough one. I don't know. Probably like staying focused, I guess, or like not giving up on things so
Mhm.
easily. Because in a match, you can't give up, or you'll just end up losing it quickly. Like you have to stay in every single point of hold throughout the entire match, and I guess that's kind of that's helped me.
How about you, Kaylee? What about you? What do you think?
Well, when you like go into it, I feel if you think you're just gonna do like great and you're up so much that like you can't think you're just going to win. Like you can't give up. It's like in school, like you can't just think you're gonna be fine if you don't do your homework, kind
Right.
of thing. Like you can't just let it go away.
So it's the details and making sure that things get done when they're supposed to get done.
Because the matches, the games will just slip away. Like
Right.
before you know it, you'll be tied when you were up by 5.
So go back to when you were a freshman and you went to your first state tournament.
Oh boy.
What was that like?
It was so scary.
So tell us about it. What do you mean?
Well, because all the girls, there was a lot of seniors on the team that year, and everyone was like so excited, like it's states, everyone's gonna do so good. But I was 2 singles as a freshman, and everyone there is already so good, and I had low expectations for myself because I knew that there were gonna be so many people there that were like gonna be better than me. But I ended up winning 2 matches and making it to the quarterfinals that year.
So that's awesome,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
so how did that from one year to the next? How did that make you feel?
A lot better because my sophomore year at 2 singles, I made it to the semifinals, so I keep progressing.
Oh, that's excellent. That's
Yeah.
excellent. So, Kaylee, kind of the same question for you. From looking where you were as a freshman and seeing at the state level, and then to where you are now, what's changed for you?
Well, I think I was really nervous going into it freshman year. Like Jillian said, our whole team was basically seniors. So me and Jillian were just the little ones. So we didn't really know what to expect, but like looking at it now, I feel like you just can't get too nervous. Like you just have to play how you always play and you'll be fine.
Yeah. So you mentioned the older team. Now you girls are in kind of those shoes, so to
Yeah.
speak. How do you help the younger girls, Kaylee?
Well, I normally just try to like pick them up because this year I noticed the freshmen, they get really down on themselves if like they're
Is there
losing.
like a similarity?
Yeah. So I just try to pick them up and say it's okay if you like lose. Just try your best, like, but don't give up. Like you have to give it your all. If
Okay.
you're down, don't stop.
How about you, Jillian? How do you help the younger players?
Yeah, before every match when we are huddling, me and Kaylee and Carrie were all telling them, like, you just need to try your hardest. Like, obviously, all the teams we played were really good, like, because Clutts does that on purpose. So all the teams we played were really good, but we told them, like, it doesn't even matter if you win. You just have to try your best, fight for every single point, and just see, like, you'll play your best, and that's all you can ask from them.
So you mentioned Coach. Has he ever gotten really angry at either of you guys on the court?
No.
He doesn't really yell. Yeah.
Okay. So how does Coach help you?
Well, I mean, he really gives us just like a little pep talk. Like if you're down and you're like down in yourself, it's like the whole mental game. If he's there to tell you like, oh, it's okay, like do this, try this, it makes you feel like a lot better.
Yeah. Tries to
After
take the pressure
yeah.
off of us.
Yeah. Okay. So can you beat him?
I don't know.
Agree?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out soon when our courts we can play them.
I always wonder because you're getting better, Coach is getting older.
Getting older.
So, well, thanks, girls. I really enjoyed talking to you. Very good. And Coach, speaking of the courts,
Yes.
I think, what is this, the 3rd year or so, or at least the 2nd year we've been talking about?
This is the 2nd year the girls have not had any courts to play on.
So give us an update and tell us where they stand.
Well, as I drove by the courts on my way here, they are going to be done today, but probably playable in 2 days. So they got to let them cure the surfacing, but they're painting them as we speak.
So what does that mean for you as the coach? I mean, now you've talked about it. Seriously.
It has been so hard. I really applaud these kids for accomplishing what they accomplished without having courts to practice on. I mean, after the regional, so all the other schools are supposed to be done unless they qualified for states. I could not find courts to practice on. The tennis house wanted to use the outdoor courts at Sanborn, which hey, absolutely. Marysville had some programming going on. Marine City had some programming, and it was really tough to find courts. And it wears on you playing away all the time.
Sure.
And so no, these kids did great.
Well, congratulations again, another terrific season, girls.
Thank you.
Looking forward to
Thank
seeing you next year.
Yep.
And even better findings or standings at the state. And
Right.
Coach, again, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And we'll see you again. All right, everybody, that's it for Press Box today. It's John Carr saying goodbye and see you next week.